There we go. There you go. So, hi, my name is Kelly Mabel. Actually, probably Kelly somebody else, but it's Mabel for this round around the sun. And you're here at Kind Mind, and I am so glad to have you. And I feel like I'm in, as I said it earlier, like it's old home week because some old friends are coming back. Linda, hi, great to see you. Coming back into the room, and some new folks coming into the room. So I will continue letting people in and say that I'm here today with a new friend. And I'm going to say that because we are new to each other, yet once you become part of the 3P family, it's almost like you could just, head right over to somebody's house, pull up your car, they'll open the door, and they've got a coffee sitting waiting for you. And I just feel that that's what these relationships are like. And Thomas Leamy was not anything different. So Thomas and I had met in the rooms. We had kept seeing each other. And of course, you know that absolutely amazing accent and distinguished voice kept luring me in. Like I got to talk to another Irish fellow. And so we decided to have a little chit chat before or after a class once. And we just got to know each other a little better, just like the 3P CG does. And so I'm really happy he's here and he's going to give us a little rundown on some of his experiences as a thought leader, as a trainer, and as a creator. Thomas has built an amazing life for himself. And I won't butcher the bio, Thomas, and most people don't even want me to give it. So I'm going to leave that completely up to you if I may, to say that he's part of the family. And he's made a profound difference by being part of the rooms that I've been in with his questions and his wisdom. And so, without further ado, here's my beautiful new Irish friend, Thomas.
Kelly, thank you so much for that glowing introduction. I was nearly going to say, please keep talking because it's going to sound better. But I appreciate it, and I'm really delighted to be in the Kind Mind community. I remember the first time I I must have signed up for one of your emails months ago, and I got an email from the Kind Mind community, and I thought that is the best name I've ever heard for a three principles related community or enterprise. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I sent you an email about that, even though I didn't even know you at the time.
You did. And I will say to everybody, it's an Irish thing. I'll just bring this in. It's an Irish thing in my family that if you believe in something passionately, you put your name on it. So
Mm.
kind mine is KM, which is Kelly Mabel. So each one of my businesses has had my name on it, even though that wasn't expected. And that's how it came apart. Yeah. Thank you for saying.
Super, super. So it's really a pleasure to be here. And I feel like I just want to set the table as well. I Well, my wife and I have lived all over the world, so more than 20 countries in the last decade or so, in a type of consulting that's very unusual. It's called nation branding. So we would de facto get attached to a foreign government for 3 to 6 months, and we would help them release a report about the country, with the goal being to direct inward investment into the country, foreign direct investment. So we got to see a lot of very interesting places. And this has been, that's a quick summary of the past 10 years of my life. I met my wife in Malaysia in 2013, and she is from the great state of Virginia, from its 11th biggest city, which I feel compelled to mention. I know not why, from Lynchburg, Virginia. And she is a lovely person as well. Some of you, I think, know her here as well. So I, like many people in this community, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on my background. What I actually hope to do today is go through a short slideshow that I have. So Kelly, if you could make me co-host, that would give me the ability to share screen. Don't worry, it's not going to be death by PowerPoint or anything like that. And then I think that it would be lovely if we have a discussion about what each of us see in this new understanding. Because just to introduce how I came about it, it's really not that long ago. I like to say I fell heavy though when it did happen or when I was exposed to it. It's about maybe 14 months ago. We were living in Greece, my wife and I, and like many people here, I'm sure, Michael Neal was the gateway, or held the keys of the kingdom, you could say, because I signed up to one of his courses, which was the Impacting Leaders course. I believe it was a month-long course. And I remember paying €700, $700 for it at the time. And the next day seeing it being reduced to $300. And that was nice. So I didn't start with all the excitement of the world. I was more like approaching it with a magnifying glass to see, well, where's the value in here? Because I need to find that value. Within a few hours of exploring the content, my first feeling was I've been hoodwinked, or I need to request a refund. Because how can I, who run a training and high performance events and coaching company, walk into CEO's office or ministers or see the C-suite and talk to them about consciousness, about this abstract notion of mind, but not your mind, not my mind, big mind. I even relayed the conversation, how that would go in my head with some of the Greek CEOs I was working at the time. And I needed to take a break for a while. So I came back to the course, and as happens when you invest some money in things, you keep going. So I did. And I woke up about a day or two later, and it just struck me that it's the same description as Sydney Banks wrote in the book Second Chance. I'm not sure if any of you have read that, but just to get an idea, would you wave at the screen if you have read Second Chance? If you're us, William Morag, wonderful. So there's a description in it where everything suddenly looked sharper in the island of Hawaii. I won't spoil any plot or anything. It's very simple. And the colors were more vibrant. The wind, the main character could feel everything more deeply. And what was black and white suddenly had color and shade. So this morning I got up, and that saying that's very common in the principles community, nothing changed, but everything was different. I looked at my wife beside me. I was like, what's going on? It's definitely my wife. Something's different about her. Then I got up. We were staying on the island of Crete. I opened the curtains and looked outside. I was like, my goodness, we were staying in this house for about a week and a half, but the vibrancy of the garden and the pool and the view of the mountains in Crete, I was like, if I was not sitting, I would need to sit down. What is going on? I couldn't anticipate what was happening in that moment. You know the saying, when you're in the jar, you can't read the label. Well, this was the best possible jar to be in. And more than anything else, my brother called me soon after that and he said, I don't know what I've discovered. I have no idea. But my mind is entirely silent, and I have to explain it to you somehow in a few months. I still haven't had that conversation with him, but he has noticed what the profound impact it has. So, I mean, magic aside, I remember Jamie Smart once saying in a podcast or something, this understanding, the three principles understanding that was unearthed by Sydney Banks, it seems to be the only thing that I've discovered that seems to automatically quieten the mind, that seems to automatically offer a level of clarity that is uncommon in the human race. And when we touch that innate sense of well-being inside us, and it wakes up, and you feel that it was always there before, You can have so many feelings. You can feel, oh my goodness, if this was here all along, where was I looking? And of course, the way we're raised and trained and our education systems, I mean, by an order of magnitude, it's outside in. So our fulfillment is not inside. We're not looking for it inside. Therefore, it can be hard to discover. And when you do discover it, it can confuse you. It certainly confused me. It knocked me because I was in the middle of setting up my own training company and consulting company. And I had consulted on an area called neuro leadership. So learning the hardware, the brain. What if we poke this area of the prefrontal cortex through this plethora of 59 different habits to increase performance? And this information, which certainly had its value from a biological point of view. But the deeper I went into the principles community, and I was lucky enough to be am lucky enough to be part of the Internations Alliance 3P Mastermind Group, which some of us are actually in this room, Christian and Firas. And we explored the principles together over many months. We're coming up on a year now as well. It's been a joy to go on that roller coaster with other people to figure out that, well, sometimes we don't need to see around corners. We just need to keep driving in terms of business, in life, in our relationships. It's been a wonderful, as Kelly pointed to at the start, the community is almost immediate in the three principles world. You feel part of something very quickly and very deeply. And then things start to change as you move in deeper into the community. And sometimes, I mean, in retrospect, the things that have changed for me, my wife is actually in this room, so she can attest if she wants to later on. But I listened to an audio by George Pransky a few months ago, and it was about ego. I'm not sure if any of you have listened to that one. Ego, if you have, give a wave. No one. Okay. So, but you know who George Pransky is. If you do, give a wave. Okay, that's helpful. Great. So it was about ego and how we attach to an image of ourself, that we must fulfill this identity in order to operate in the world. And if anything threatens that identity, and this is the way we're naturally molded through absolute innocence. If anything threatens that identity, well, we throw up the shields, we pull up the drawbridge, we take it personally, we get offended, and we delete their contact number. But actually, as you go deeper into this principles world and you realize how this image of self is created, not only do you not get offended by someone else's input or opinion, well, you don't take yourself so seriously. And something hit home for me recently when, like so many of you in your respective countries, Ireland is in lockdown, has been for a long time, and it's still slowly opening up. But I felt I needed a massage recently. So I booked one at this great place in Cashel, a town near me. And I went in, had an amazing massage. And I paid the masseuse. It was whatever, like $100. And I had no tip, because that's the exact amount of cash I had. Now, old me would have thought, oh my goodness, she's going to think I'm mean. She's going to think I didn't think that she's good, or her service wasn't up to standard. This is like eating in a restaurant in New York and tipping 0%. you would, I mean, you wouldn't want to have dessert because what the waiter might do to your food. So this immediately flashed through me, but I observed and I was able to see, oh, that's all made up. And what this lovely person thinks of me is in her world. As Robin Charbit talks about, I live in Thomas land. Barbara lives in Barbara land. Purnell lives in Purnell land. And we all have different nation states with different laws. But when we understand the governing, the United Nations laws, it becomes easier to diplomatically liaise with Barbara land and Purnell land as well. Now that's certainly a tangent, but I just wanted to introduce that a bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share screen and just go through a few brief slides from my company. And it's a generic presentation that I've given to a good few company executives, both one-on-one in different trainings around the world, etc. And I'm very much still figuring it out, because transitioning from an old style of training and coaching, as Kelly would absolutely know, to this new style of principles-based understanding of not instructing, or no techniques by and large, but more experiments and figuring it out yourself and holding a flashlight rather than an instruction manual. It's certainly been a process. You go through phases of mixing the content, the new and the old, and I guess sometimes you land on the ground and sometimes you don't. But let me just share a screen and see what we can go through. All right. So this was a presentation I gave at business school a while ago. That's my company, HPSE. And yeah, let me start here. Just as I came into the room, I was talking to Kelly, and a quote came into my mind that was not this quote, but was by Dr. Keith Blevins from the Principles community. And his quote, which I think is better than this one now, is, "The future is an incomplete equation." And Charles Koch, the CEO of Koch Industries in the US, said, "The future is unknown and unknowable." And this really struck me, because in the leadership development models that we have deployed in the training space over the years, it has never been based on not knowing the future. It has always been based on trying to predict the future and then doing our best to play whack-a-mole or put out fires and see what we can do, damage control and fertilization rather than strength and conditioning of the mind, shall we say. So I'm not going to go through the industrial revolutions, don't worry. But with each of these came a different segment of leadership development, of training, of behaviors, 3 different ages, broadly speaking: the industrial age, the information age, and what we're in now, the gray area between the knowledge economy and the information age, which I call the imagination age. And as Dr. Rita King, she points out that it's simply this new era where we don't know. Ideas are the new currency of power, not information. Like, we pick up our cell phone, we have as much information in our hand as Bill Clinton had in the 90s at his disposal. Democratization of information is everywhere. So we all know it's what we do with the information is critical. And this, more so than any time in history, this acronym, VUCA, it's originally an American military acronym used to describe that interbellic period, the Cold War between America and the USSR. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I mean, if there was ever a term to describe the pandemic world, the new normal, the complexity that we're all dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I think you'd be hard pressed to come up with a more apt and accurate acronym for the day. So in the industrial age, in the information age and the imagination age, there's always been academic forms of leadership put forward to deal with certain eras as they rise and fall like the stock market, from visionary leadership to leadership as a coach. So what is the next frontier? Well, this is a question that we're all trying to answer. But from a principles point of view, I like to call it self-leadership, with state of mind being the deep driver. And the reason I say self-leadership is because, well, if we can't put out all the fires in British Columbia, and we can't put out all the fires in Australia, and we can't control individually, I'm speaking, the 500 circumstances that are coming our way, like arrows each day. I apologize if you hear farm machinery going by. There's not much I can do about it. But the feeling that you need to shield yourself from the external stimuli and circumstances can be really overwhelming. But from a principles point of view, you don't need to deal with the 500 externalities when you see through how they're created. So therefore, in this volatile period, the leader who is in the highest state of mental fitness will perform at the highest level most optimally. This is what I call the self-leadership model. It combines a few different approaches, but of course, as Kelly would say, governing psychology of the principles or state of mind in the business community is the foundation on top of which anything else can be built, or everything else must be built. I like to say you can't build a castle on sand. You can try, but without this foundation of mental clarity, why would you want to build on top of it? That's the way I see it right now. So why is state of mind so important? Well, many of you will know Dr. Aaron Turner. He said, it's the greatest untapped resource in any company, the state of mind of its people. And I absolutely agree with him. This is a quick graph I pulled from, I think, Harvard Business Review, a large scale study of thousands of leaders, if I'm remembering correctly. And what we see is the percentages of leaders who experience what they call all these different states of mind regularly and how it links to performance. And we see on this bell curve, lower states of mind, higher states of mind. Happy, satisfied, calm, content, energized, excited is the sweet spot. That is the sweet spot. And that raises the question, how do we get there? Of course. This is another study of 250,000 data points on thoughts, feelings, actions, etc. It found that leaders spent nearly half of their waking hours thinking about doing something other than they're doing. That's just a little appendage. So how do we shift from lower to higher states of mind? How do we introduce it? Well, that's certainly true. It depends who you ask, because as many people as there are out there, there are also that many opinions. And this is just testament to that external environment, physiology, psychoanalysis, approach it from this way, 10 ways to build a yacht, you name it. It's going to have a voice on the internet. What I've found, and my collaborators, is that it has to be sensible, simple, and subtractive, or clear and impactful, in order for anyone to take it seriously in the business community at this point in time. Everyone is flooded with information and data points. So people aren't looking for more how-tos or the 500-page Bible of performance. They're looking at what moves the what moves the needle the most. And Sydney Banks said, the answer to complexity is not more complexity, it's simplicity. And that's what I think is always the answer. Whenever complexity is there, these days, I mean, from a principal's point of view, it's so wonderful to exhale and let that kind of mental chatter fade away and create legroom with simplicity. We'll skip the audience digestion poll for now and go to the answer, the big reveal. How do we access a calmer, happier, and more energized state of mind? Well, it will not be lost to us in this community that the answer is get present. Because in the state of presence, that's where the top of the bell curve happens, where we are calm, when we perform at our best from an energized angle, where we organically make the most difference without efforting or without technique, without trying. It's our natural state. I mean, in a webinar with Dick and Bettinger recently, we talked about how we think it's a wonderful idea to override the power of the system by taking control of our mind and changing our thoughts and chipping away at them like a sculptor, molding them and moving them. And in essence, as my friend Carrie Klein pointed out once, well, that's kind of like grabbing a toy steering wheel in the back of the car and spinning frantically. But sooner or later, we realize that in presence, you can let go of that little wheel because you're the plane, you're not the pilot. Now, in the business world, I call this executive nowness, because if we pitched the business leaders on mindfulness in the present moment, we'd have no income. So that's why it's called executive nowness. And here, which you may be familiar with, the clear impact principles are the three principles of mind, thought, and consciousness, or awareness in this instance. The names, as you know, are not important. It's the energy behind the words. And this simple explanation of how we're living in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of our external stimulus or stimuli, turns out to be such a game changer in terms of mental performance and clarity that, I mean, it is the greatest undiscovered secret, or best kept secret, I think, of the past 50 years or however long since Sydney Bank first uncovered it. And to explain how they work, well, that is, I mean, who can do that? We can put words to the feeling, but I think we all know that at the end of the day, our understanding is our understanding of the principles. Some things that really helped them stand out for me was retrospectively thinking of examples in life. So once I was flying from Mindanao to Manila in the Philippines, and it was the only time ever in my flying career, not that I'm a pilot, but I hope you know what I mean, the oxygen masks dropped down on the plane. And I was dozing, so it hit what's called a clear air turbulent. And the plane dropped a few hundred feet in the air and the oxygen masks came down. And at the time, I was like, oh, it's all over. It's really a shame that my parents will have to fly me home from Southeast Asia for my funeral. I really thought that was it. But the plane stabilized. And as I looked around, or as I remember looking around rather, well, some people were still sleeping. Some people were crying. There was a Catholic priest praying. There was babies wailing. But there was also people who didn't care and were queuing for the restroom. There was people laughing. There was people smiling. There was people ordering red wine or Sauv Blanc. And in fact, as many people as were on that plane, well, that was the amount of different reactions taking place in the plane. And that's because we were not experiencing the turbulent. We were experiencing the missing link, the bit in the middle, the principle of thought taking form in the moment. So those that were having relaxing thoughts were relaxed. Those that didn't realize the plane had gone through a turbulent patch and were still asleep, well, they weren't scared. They weren't responding to the external stimulus. And that's the joy, because we're not living in the experience of these challenging external circumstances. We're living in the feeling of our thinking. So how does this help in terms of leadership? Well, a few things. There's a New York Times bestseller this year called The Art of Impossible by Stephen Coppler. I've done many of his courses. I've read many of his books. Wonderful information and content. Absolutely superb research. He deals with the flow genome project. So how humans perform at their best is his field of study. The thing is, I looked at this book on my Kindle with a smile from ear to ear as I read each of these 22 flow triggers that they're training leaders to engage, to deploy to their leadership teams, to reach this state of peak performance where you're 500% more productive, where your sense of self and time is lost and performance peaks. McKinsey's study found that 500% more productive in flow, like working on Monday and not needing to come in any other day of the week because you get so much done. But all of these 22 flow triggers, things like the challenge risk ratio, physical environment, deep embodiment, things like this, every single one of them are downstream of an understanding of the principles. Because every single one of them uses the vehicle of thought to achieve its trigger status. So therefore, as Christine Heath would say, the horse has left the barn, you know? And at that point in time, where should the focus lie? So in the now, in executive nowness or in presence, we don't have to worry about flow triggers. We don't have to keep a journal of our performance or how we're achieving this angle or that angle. We don't have to monitor ourselves or check in with ourselves because it's natural. We perform at our best in the present when we're not thinking about how we're performing. By an order of magnitude, I can vividly remember in my own wedding giving a speech a few years ago and feeling after on honeymoon in Tanzania and Zanzibar, oh, I did a terrible job. Oh, how could I do that? All these Americans coming over to Ireland and I did such a bad job. A few months ago, my brother got married. I was the best man. The difference in giving a speech from the principles understanding and the prepare, bullet point, thank, and just showing up if there was a column on each side, it's not even comparable. It's chalk and cheese. The performance with a principles understanding is, oh, I probably could have done better in some areas, probably did good in other areas. I might have missed a thank you or two, but my goodness, wasn't it fun? Now, where's the bar? Whereas my other experience was me lying in a hammock, my wife in our cabin in Zanzibar, and me thinking about what a terrible job I did. Oh my goodness, I really let myself down. In Zanzibar with a platter of fruit and a coconut in my hand. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, Dickon Bellinger said, when a leader is truly present, there's no need for a course in communication or strategic communication, because you know what to say. It's not to say we don't need skills, but we're always going to perform at our best with the repertoire that we have when we're not thinking about how we're performing. I think Michael Neal has this formula in one of his books. High performance equals capacity minus interference. In other words, when we get out of our own way, high performance is there. It shows up. We don't need to work to create it. So this part, I'm just going to really skip over because it's experiments for leaders to see where and when they perform at their very best. That's Eckhart Tolle. So the first one, I think many of you will know from different literature and principles, etc., that deep listening. How many of us show up to our neighbor's house who borrowed our lawnmower, or our family gathering with the thought of, oh God, she's going to be talking about this again, or oh, he's never going to stop talking about his new car. We're not really listening because we've predicted how they're going to behave. Yeah. And then we're like, oh yeah, that's great. Yeah. Listening to affirm, listening to negate, but without any, it wouldn't hold a glass of water. When we listen with no agenda, what shows up from that space, that silence and that lack of judgment, is always relevant and always right. Not that there's a wrong, but I think you know what I mean. The second experiment I heard at a Ken Manning, Robin Sharbutt training. And it's a simple analogy. A sailboat, as many of you have probably been on, I have not been on, but this picture helps me greatly, is designed, if it capsizes, if Storm Henry, which is heading for the US right now, if something hits the sailboat and it capsizes, there's a stabilizing mechanism built into it called a keel here that self-corrects, that centralizes the sailboat, because that's what it's designed to do. You see where I'm going with this? Now, if a trainee sailor is on this boat and they fall into the water and the boat capsizes, they hold on to the sail, almost always. They won't let go of the sail. They need to fix the boat. And a more experienced sailor passing by from the New Zealand team will shout over, "Let go." And as soon as they do, back to center, back to default, recalibrated, back up, plain sailing. All by surrendering, by letting go, and not needing to control what's going on. I think I'm going to stop there with the presentation. But I just wanted to mention one other thing that before we talk about anything you want, discuss anything you want. I'm sure many of you have listened to the wonderful podcast Psychology Has It Backwards with Judy Sedgman and Christine Heath. I think it was in one of the latest editions of it where Judy Sedgman was talking about how most people, when they're in a low state of mind, when they're when they're experiencing anxious thought, they listen to it and they think that it's really helpful and they will follow it and they will pay great attention to it microscopically. And the example she gave was, if you're sitting in a cinema and there's only 3 of you, and that is quite feasible given the times we live in, and the 2 people in front of you, on the left and the right, react to something, the cinema suddenly has a fire in it. And one person on the right stands up and says, "Oh my God, this is absolutely terrible. We're finished. We're going to die." Popcorn everywhere, falling over seats, shouts back to you, "Follow me." That's option A. And option B is the only other person in the cinema who says, "Oh, I think there's a fire, but I see that there's an emergency exit down there on the left. Come with me." Who are you going to follow? Well, this metaphor is the same with the mind. We think with our toy wheel that it's always the best to follow the screaming popcorn maniac who's falling over seats. And maybe going forward, we can all look and see where that gets us. Do we make it to the exit? Might be worth looking at. Kelly, that concludes my talk.
Bravo! Bravo! That was awesome, Thomas. I really pulled some really cool insights out of that. And the one thing that came as you were saying, I've often followed that crazy popcorn woman. There's been times in my life when I thought that was correct. But the word performance came up quite a bit. And I have to say that since the 3 principles, I realized that performance used to be my onstage Kelly. The masks of, everything, whatever it is. Oh, I'm going to mask up this way. And since 3P, I feel like when we're speaking about the word performance, there's so many ways to view that word. And so 3 principles has, and you have depicted very clearly, the act in which we're coming to give ourselves to any one thing. I've realized for me, it was a big learn, a left turn to come and just be in the understanding of who I am in the moment and let go of what I think it needs to look like, what I think it could be, what I think you all want to hear, what I think that the company or client is looking for, and just be. Because what I noticed that when I am there, the authenticity of the principles shining through is what comes out first. What do you hear about that when you think of your word for performance? I'm curious. What do you now the performance versus the performance? Because you're speaking in that word as in a business frame, and it's there's many different ways to look at it. Tell me your take when you hear that.
Well, I think that we humans are so uncomfortable, generally speaking, with the unknown, that It is the scary place where we shalt not look, the dark space under our bed. We don't want to look there. And that means that we need to prepare for every eventuality. We need to read the strategic manual over and over again. We need to go through those 14 leadership principles in order to react to what this new intern will say to me, or if my boss is having a bad day, well, then I need to refer to subcategory 7.8. And that will make sense because that is how everyone should respond. So the secret is get ready. There's nothing under the bed. The unknown is unknowable, and we don't need to know it. Mm-hmm. So when we get that deep appreciation for we don't have to try and predict the future or see around curves or corners, because we're going to be at our best in the present, like you point to. That's when we navigate the corner in top flight very accurately. Like my wife and I at the moment we've many discussions, but for the past year we've lived in Ireland, but we've decided we're going to pack up and go to a few different countries. I'm moderating at a conference in Greece in October, and we might pop around there a bit. Now, it doesn't seem very feasible with coronavirus and with different nations having different entry rules, etc. And we go so far as to plan day by day for the next as many months as possible, only to realize, oh, yeah, we're trying to predict the future. We really have no idea what the price of milk will be like in Bulgaria in 2022. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no point in booking that taxi from the train station. So if I mean, to answer your question in a roundabout way, performance is whatever we think it is.
I got to tell you what's come up, and I don't know if you know this. I'm sure some of the North American people here will remember the creative toy called Gumby. Does anybody remember Gumby? Okay, so it's a green little man. Now, the reason I mention is because it was given to me because we were Irish and it was green. And Gumby has wire inside of it. And when I was a kid and all the way through my learning years, I used to morph myself like Gumby to be in the right performance mode. Like you said, I had the manual and I'd turn my body and Gumby myself because this little toy could twist and turn into anything. And I think, yeah, that's the piece that, you know, the green Gumby of what I think it needs to look like was so far from living in the moment. So far.
Another something that just came to mind is when we think we are responsible entirely for the outcome. So we're not co-creating, we are in charge. We are, you know, as Michael Neal says in some trainings, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. Well, the example that's coming to mind is for our honeymoon a few years ago. One option on the table that we were quite excited about before we were booking it, well, a volcanic eruption happened and an ash cloud came up over the whole peninsula in Southeast Asia, and the Bali area. So all flights were cancelled, all transportation was cancelled, just as we were, you know, looking at booking it. We could have forced ourselves to book it. We could have went round by Singapore, sailed in a boat and got a canoe and caught the trade winds and made it there eventually. And we did it with 2 days probably left in the honeymoon. Or we can see that, well, I don't have to wed to this exact way it needs to turn out, because I don't know how it's going to turn out. So what else is on the table? What if I stay malleable and stay open to possibility and outcome and go to Africa instead? And we did. And after those few days of self-absorbed nonsense of thinking about my wedding speech, it was amazing. We saw hyenas and lions and all sorts of yolks. But
You fell in. You fell into the moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
so much, so much. And it just, by sheer bludgeonry, it pushed me into the moment, these many different reasons. But of course, we know it wasn't the circumstance.
Right.
Put on the air. I'd love to know what other people are
Yes.
hearing or what's coming to mind. I mean,
Yeah. In this moment, I'd love people to raise their digital hand or
yeah.
just wave or come off your closed microphone and share a little bit about what you heard or ask any question. Go ahead, Ray Joan. Yeah, lovely to have you.
Oh, I'm just enjoying this so much, and I'm part Irish as well, just so you know. 1/4. My grandfather came over from Ireland, and I love your accent. I just love to hear it. But I get to experience because I work with children and preschool to grade 7, and I witness their presence, like they are in the now. And with the 3 Ps, I've realized how much being in the now and experiencing the now, right now, with the present, being with them, has changed for me, because I would be working with them. I'm a tutor, and I would be working with them, but my mind would be somewhere else, and while they're doing something. But now I'm so much more present, and I witness what they are like. And I've when you said go to a different plan, I give them that option. And because they're like, well, what do you mean plan B? And they're not aware that, okay, if something's not working, well, then you go to plan B. You do the next step. So I'm giving them that tool, I guess, and awareness that not everything works out the way you think it will. And then it's just like, but I just feel so blessed because I get to witness their being present in what they're doing and what's so important with them. And then I get to realize what's important to me right now. And I just love that. And I loved your presentation. It was awesome. And thank you for that. I just wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Joan. That was really lovely. And I'm certainly seeing on a deeper level how much we can learn from kids. We think we're the teachers, We think that in university, and just after, I used to teach grade 2 to grade 4, and I thought I was their teacher. But as I think back, I've learned much more from them than I taught them. My nephew, Joan, I remember at a confirmation a few years ago, he was 7 or 8, and he was on the trampoline. And he ran in screaming, "Somebody hit me on the elbow." And he was crying, and there's tears streaming down his face. And my brother, who's a brilliant dad, turned to him and said, "Jonah, blueberry muffin." And Jonah took the muffin and ate it. And his expression on his face changed from sheer horror and terror to delight and joy in an instant. And he went back out and had the time of his life. Now, if that was Thomas, or if that was Daniel or Christian, would we eat the muffin? Or would we say, "I don't have time for the muffin. Didn't you see what he did to me? Doesn't he know who I am? How could he?" So I think of that often when thinking of kids, that We make up grudges and then we decide to hold them.
Holding
Okay.
tight too.
Say that again, Kelly.
We hold them tight too at times.
They're our grudges.
They are.
Thank you, Joan. That was really lovely.
Thanks, Ray Joan. William, please. Welcome to the room. Lovely to have you again.
Um, well, I just really enjoyed it. I just enjoy your voice and the way you come across, and it's just really nice. It's like when I play tennis. I like some people. I just love hitting with them because of the way they deliver the ball, so I can be who I am. What I really am noticing is that I keep noticing. And I just have this feeling, I love this thought that seems to keep coming. I don't have to know. There's a different emphasis for me that because I really feel so present when I don't know, but it's that added little oomph, and I don't really have to know. So it kind of gives an extra punch of relief to me. And I also see that being kind of a slow learner in so many areas, I see such value in that because I'm just never going to run out of new learning. And it's like a meal that has no ending to it because there's just always more to eat, to learn, to enjoy. So I just, and then it's like observing this unfolding and this person, whoever at times I think I am, but I get to observe that person more and more. It's just like, I like that that's not really me, but I'm sure enjoying watching it. And so, and yeah, it's just, it's like it really is like more and more letting life live me. That's what I'm feeling. And so I really enjoy how you seem to are going with the wind. And it's fun watching you, not just watching, but going along with you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, William. That's nice. That's awesome. Go, yeah. For us, did I say that right? For us?
Yep, beautifully.
Lovely
Hi,
to
Kelly.
meet you.
Likewise, thank you. I love what both you and Thomas kind of pointed at towards. I'd taken a hiatus from corporate life for almost a year and just recently went back. And something that just happened about 2 hours ago with my boss. I'm injured my foot yesterday, so today I'm out of the office. And my CEO has been sending me all these messages about different things that are happening at the office. And she'd send me one slightly frustrated message about, did you know about this happened and your team didn't take care of this or that? And I immediately kick into my habitual trying to manage my boss and what's happening. And oh my God, I kind of lost control of something. And literally it was like a split second as I was trying to type a response to her. And I noticed myself doing what both you and Thomas were pointing towards, is trying to figure out what I needed to do and how to control it and how to bring it back into control. And I realized I'm like, I honestly have no clue what happened. And I essentially just replied back saying, kind of like, thank you, noted. I know, thank you for your message, and I'll look into it and see what actually happened. And and her immediate response was, oh, I probably just overreacted. Thank you very much. Send me like it's like everything's okay. And it was hilarious because I didn't actually have to figure out what she was going through, what actually had happened, and kind of just accept the fact that something happened I didn't know about, and say as much without, as you said, kind of twisting myself into pretending to be the executive that has answers to everything, and literally saying as much. And that settled her down. And I just found that lovely. She settled down without me having to settle her down. So that was just a beautiful thing that I picked up off of what both you and Thomas pointed to earlier.
That's awesome. I concur in the feeling of, you know, my calm is a ripple to others, right? As I take that step back, nothing needs to be done in this very moment. And oh, look at that, she's calling. And it's actually not what it was. Yeah, that big long pause between one experience to the next is so beautiful at times. Thank you for sharing and lovely to meet you.
You're welcome. Likewise, thank you.
Let
Morag,
me,
please. Morag, like to say something, Thomas, to you.
oh, great. And just more before you do, I was going to interrupt the silence by talking about silence. What I've certainly found is from silence, everyone gets the nourishment they need. Whatever you're looking for, it's like the most fertile ground. But it's all too tempting, as I just did, to break the silence in pursuit of comfort, I suppose. But I just thought I'd append that. Okay, who had a question, Kelly, or who was coming on?
Morag's coming at you right now. Hi, beautiful.
Hello. Yeah, I've been reflecting on state of mind and when I'm not aware of my state of mind. I mean, the example recently, I live in the interior of British Columbia and we've had huge fires and thick smoke and crazy heat. And what made the difference was knowing that I don't need to know. I don't need to know what's going to happen. There's a wonderful example of that. I have zero control, of course. And what I'm interested in is I was aware I had low mood days. There were days I just thought, oh my God, and off my thinking went, is this what it's going to be like every year, blah, 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 blah. And the difference was I could observe that. I could see that I was in a low mood. I didn't need to do anything about it. And tying that sort of mood into state of mind, it felt like in those moments I was experiencing low mood. I didn't need to go down any rabbit hole. And it was as if I knew my state of mind beneath that was calm, was fine. I'd done what came to me. I had a grab bag if we needed to go. So the whole sort of state of mind and mood, it felt like the mood was still surface stuff and the state of mind was that constant, always there, when I knew it and when I didn't. And it just made it a lot simpler when I knew and then I tapped into it. Or I didn't even tap into it, I allowed it to come through. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I've before thought about your mood and state of mind, and I know how important state of mind is, and even knowing I'm not aware of it, still maybe. Does any of that make sense? I don't know. I've just been playing with this notion of state of mind, even when I'm in a low mood. I'm experiencing low thoughts. Full stop. Nothing to do.
Yeah, we're singing from the same hymn book, Morag. I absolutely concur with your descriptions of state of mind. And even in my presentation, which I keep meaning to edit, talks about all these different states of mind, like a happy state of mind, an energized state of mind. But it really is, for me, a moment to moment thing. And this deep connection to self is our default state of mind. And as tends to happen, a very apt example comes to mind with my wife. Just earlier today, again, we were talking about the idea of turbulent thought and the idea of the transient nature of habitual thinking and how even traumatic loops of thought is the surface, like the surface of a river, like if you're whitewater rafting in Nepal or in Jinja in Uganda. But just below the surface, where Morag is pointing, it's a little bit quieter. It's like, you know, the space Firas found with his colleague, observing them going from turbulence to a bit calmer. But all of us have access to the deep calm, the deep now, the innate state of mind that doesn't need a label, and we can't even label it if we try. That's right there at the bottom of the river. Optimized clarity, natural state, no judgment, doing exactly what it needs to do. And that state of mind, what you're pointing to, Morag, is beautiful. The state of mind.
That, being light bulb. Because sometimes hearing it, I was thinking, I've got to find my good state of mind. And the whole thing is, it's not my state of mind. It's the impersonal big state of mind, and it's the letting go. So it's not the personal, it's not 20 ways to get to a good state of mind. It's that's such a good, that's the illusion, because it's the state of being without the thought. It's the listening without anything on our mind. And thank you, Thomas, the real impersonality of state of mind. So again, there's nothing to do. It's there, it's us. Full stop.
I love that, Maury, because I think in my mind we're talking about, like, there's stages. We don't always see it. And I love that you said, there's this place. And I think that I'm trying to working towards honoring myself in my awareness. Oh, look at that. Oh my God, I'm being XYZ. I'm moody today, or, and just being really aware. And then somewhere between that awareness goes, oh, right. As I fall back into my beautiful depth of pool, so yeah, I'm not always on top of it, but very much learning that I'm aware. That wow, yay, I get to say I'm aware. Look at that. I figured it out, one baby step at a time. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Please, Daniel. Hello and welcome to the room.
As you can see, when you mentioned my name, Thomas's eyebrow raised. So I know Thomas now for probably 15 years.
Yes.
And what I would like to applaud Thomas for, firstly, is his ability to present what he's thinking and his evaluation of the world that he lives in and doesn't live in. But what I would like to ask Thomas is there a bridging gap between comfort and the feeling of discomfort? And how do we bridge that gap?
Well, first of all, Daniel, it's great to see you again. Daniel is a friend of mine who is not in the Principles community, but I think that I need to hear a bit more about what exactly you're asking, because when you say moving from discomfort to comfort, like, are you asking how do we accomplish that, or like what's the methodology or the formula?
The realization when you're in a place of comfort that you've come from a place of discomfort, being able to actually realize that you were in a place that you were unhappy in, but didn't realize you were until the realization of comfort or happiness.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, Daniel, that it's a very deep question, and I have some ideas about how to answer it. I have some people here who I'd probably say they should have a shot at it. But what I think, in the interest of the time we have left, is it very much depends on how you define comfort and discomfort. Because what that is to you might be completely different to Sharon, William, and Loretta, first of all. But really, when you say, I knew that I was out of comfort by realizing that back then I was comfortable, how you're accessing that level of comfort is worth taking a look at. Because really, it's a memory of a situation of comfort. So, I mean,
I'll give the people there a background to where my question is coming from. So
Okay.
myself and Thomas have lived on 3 continents together. And I suppose it comes from the idea that I've been in Oman for 10 years now. And over the past 4 or 5 weeks, I realized that those 10 years, there were so many times that I thought I was comfortable because I was here, I was working, and lifestyle is good. But for me, when I got to the point of being able to analyze those times when I had discomfort, or I should have been able to make a decision that I was uncomfortable and make a change, I went back into the bubble of what was comfort in terms of the lifestyle rather than my personal happiness.
Well,
So,
Daniel, what I was going to say was, I think I'll stand out and let Kelly answer your question as someone who doesn't know you for 15 years and lived with you in 3 continents.
I will do that. William, did you have something to share? Because I noticed that. No, you're okay. Daniel, what I would say is very simple, but may seem a stretch at times. What I know for myself is that when I'm in a place of comfort, ease, life is working with me, I'm sailing downstream, there's a feeling that's connected with that. And that feeling tells me moment to moment that I am okay. I am exactly where I need to be. And when I'm in discomfort, I'm so far away from that feeling because where I am is thinking. I'm in my head. Excuse me, I've got some painters out my door here. And so I look for a feeling, as Sid would say. I look for that place where I'm in the moment in a beautiful feeling. And then I'm in the next moment and the next moment. And the other thing I would say, just because there was mention, is that there is no rear view mirror. All we have is today. And I'm sure glad you're here.
thanks.
You're welcome. One of the things that this room brings together is people from all walks of life, doing all different things, experiencing life in many different places. And I never know who's coming. And I love that. I love that because we get to meet new people and experience the way people see the world, the way they see their experiences, and share that. And that's beautiful to me. And I also know that the present moment has has, as we were saying before, Thomas, the stillness, you know, when we're just in the moment and we're just quiet. It's just such a beautiful place to be.
In that moment, there is no lack. There is no discomfort. It's, you know, Robin Charvitt from Insight Principles, one of the first questions he always asks executives is, think of a time where you're quietest on the inside and notice how life looked at that point. That's what we call, of course, grounding. Because as Kelly's talking about, in that moment, in the now, you are in harmony with life. So you are going downstream.
Mm-hmm.
It's plain sailing. And in that beautiful Gulf Stream current of life, we make up the hurricanes. They're not real. And then we try and navigate them and sail due west or turn hard starboard side, if that makes sense. I need to work on my sailing analogies.
Port starboard, yeah.
Yeah. But it's remarkable how life does carry us when we let it and when we acknowledge that we are it.
And we're not holding on to the oars. No oars necessary in that stream. So, my beautiful people, my beautiful, kind mind souls. Thomas, how do you feel? Does this feel like the right place to close?
Absolutely, it sure does. And it has been a wonderful pleasure being part of the Kind Mind community. And please, Kelly, keep doing what you're doing because you do it so well. And you do it from such a lovely, deep place of service. And I think we can all feel that. So thank you so much, too, for inviting me and having me.
It's my pleasure, my friend. I'll just give everybody a little heads up. First, thank you, Thomas, for all that you offer and give. And this is a labor of love in service of these speakers. So all of the people that come to this room come complimentary to give their labor of love in conversation to all of you. So I am beyond blessed. But next week, we have Hannah Studley, and that will be a very exciting room as well. But I would like everybody to know, and I'm going to give as many heads up as I can. Come September through to December, we are changing days and we are changing times. To accommodate all the communities of the world, I like to give an option. So in September, we will be at 11 a.m., which will be 7 p.m., I believe, for the English community and the Danish community, if I'm not mistaken. And then that will give evening time for most of the people over in the EU, and it'll be morning time on a Tuesday here for Pacific. So I hope to see you on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., but we have one more class next week with Hannah Studley at Mondays at 9. So all my love to everybody. Have a fabulous week, and I look forward to seeing your kind mind in the room soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Barbara. Lovely to see you. Lovely to meet you from us. Bye, Sharon. Great to have you. Michael, great to have you. Thanks for coming early. Jana, Mika.
Christian, are you there?
Christian, we haven't seen a face yet.
Yeah.
Christian from my mastermind. Kelly. While you're
Awesome.
there, are you attending Dickon and Michael